Good morning, and thank you for joining us. I'm Margaret Stiles, leader of the official opposition in Ontario, the Ontario NDP, and I'm very pleased this morning to be joined by Deputy Leader Dolly Begum, MPP for Scarborough Southwest, Peggy Sattler, MPP for London West, Teresa Armstrong, MPP for London Fanshawe, and Terence Kernahan, MPP for London North Centre. Today is a somber reminder of what happens when we let hate fester. It has been 3 years since a brutal terrorist attack in London, Ontario killed 4 members of the Afzal family. Madiha Salman, Salman Afzal, Talat Afzal, and 15-year-old Yumna were killed while on a walk. Since this horrific attack, I am sorry to say that incidents of Islamophobia have not declined. In fact, we're hearing from our Muslim neighbors, friends, and family that they're not feeling safe and that this kind of hate is rising. We all need to see more action to stamp it and all forms of hate out for good. Following the attack, Muslims in London and all across Ontario came together to propose legislative solutions, which the Ontario NDP proposed as the Our London Family Act. It's been 2 years, and Ontarians are still waiting for these recommendations to be implemented. I'm so proud to stand here alongside our MPPs and to recognize this very solemn anniversary of the London attack, and also to demand action for Muslim Ontarians. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleagues.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. I'm Peggy Sattler, MPP for London West, and I want to thank our leader, Margaret Stiles, and also my colleagues for being here on this important day. Today marks 3 years since the heinous hate-motivated attack that took the lives of 4 members of the Afzal family, leaving a child orphaned, a community grieving, and opening deep wounds that will never fully heal. A Muslim family from London West went out for a stroll on a lovely summer evening. They were murdered in a horrific act of terrorist violence because of who they were and the faith they shared. And, as the judge ruled in her verdict of terrorism, by the dangerous discourse about Muslims that the perpetrator heard around him. In the days and weeks that followed June 6, 2021, our community was forced to confront the ugly and painful reality of Islamophobia and hate in our city. At the vigil held for the Afzal family immediately following the murders, leaders from all levels of government attended and committed to taking action. While several initiatives have been implemented locally and federally, we continue to wait for legislative changes in Ontario. Several months after the attack, leaders in London's Muslim community worked with the National Council of Canadian Muslims to release a detailed and comprehensive set of provincial measures to address Islamophobia and all forms of racism, discrimination, and hate. The 3 London MPPs were proud to co-sponsor a bill in 2022 to move these measures forward, and we were disappointed when the government refused to allow our bill to be debated, saying that it would be studied instead and brought back to the legislature. Unfortunately, despite all parties indicating support for some form of legislation, our London Family Act disappeared from the order paper when the last election was called without ever being debated at Queen's Park. 2 years later, we have yet to see the government anti-hate legislation that was requested by the community at a time of surging Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism since the violence in Gaza. This week, advocates from across Ontario, organized by the National Council of Canadian Muslims, came to Queen's Park to urge anti-Islamophobia, anti-hate legislation similar to our London Family Act. The Ontario NDP is responding to the community's call by launching consultations this summer in communities across Ontario. including London, Ottawa, Toronto, and Windsor. We are looking forward to hearing directly from the community and to sharing our findings with the government and all parties to inform the development of anti-hate legislation that meets the moment and responds to the lived realities of Muslims in this province. All Ontarians deserve to feel safe in their workplaces, schools, and communities. The need for legislative action has never been greater. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dolly Bacom. I'm the MPP for Scarborough Southwest and Deputy Leader of the Ontario NDP. And I'm proud to be here today with our leader, Marit Stiles, and my NDP MPP colleagues to lay out our plans to work with the Muslim communities across Ontario, taking concrete actions to push forward anti-hate legislation. 3 years ago, the Muslim community across Canada was horrified by a violent act of hatred and Islamophobia that killed the Afzal family in London. Many Muslims, especially those who are visibly Muslim, do not feel safe in Ontario, and that is unacceptable. Since last October, especially, we have seen a rapid rise in Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism here in our province and across the country. Muslims, like all Ontarians, have the right to peacefully protest, to attend demonstrations, to pray, and to mourn their loved ones in peace and with security. We deserve to feel safe in our workplaces, schools, and in our community spaces. But the reality is that many really don't. Hatred of this kind is insidious, dangerous, and harmful to not only Muslim community, but who we are as a province. And we cannot allow this type of hate to fester and grow. It is our job as legislators to ensure our communities have the tools and the support that they need to combat hate, and the proposals outlined by my Ontario NDP colleagues in the previously proposed legislation, our London Family Act, did just that. It has been over 2 years since this key legislation has been proposed. To ensure that we meet the moment, especially today that we are in, a tough day for Muslims as we honor the Afzal family, we will be going back directly to the community to consult on robust anti-hate legislation. Ontario must take concrete actions that addresses Islamophobia, educate on the harms of hate, and keep our communities safe. Let's work together to make sure hate never claims another life again. Thank you very much. And this time we'll take any questions.
You mentioned before the last bill that the party consulted with the community. Why do you feel it necessary to kind of consult again rather than, and I know we're going into the summer, but rather than tabling another bill?
So one of the things that we heard from the government previously when we proposed this legislation was they wanted to study it more. So here we are doing this study ourselves, because over the last 2 years we have not seen that action. We have also seen a rapid rise in Islamophobia, in anti-Palestinian hate over the last couple of months, as we know, across this province, across this country. And we think that today, especially as we remember a horrific incident that took place 3 years ago, we just cannot wait any longer. And so we, as the official opposition, are taking it upon ourselves to go back to the table and say we must take action. I'll also allow my colleagues to answer if...
Sorry. One of the omissions that we are aware of in the previously tabled legislation is the absence of any reference to anti-Palestinian racism. And we know that that is surging in Ontario, especially since October. There's also, a growing awareness that there's a lack of concrete data on the extent of incidents of hate. Many of those go unreported, and so there are opportunities to look at how to collect provincial-wide data, and that could be something that could be incorporated into the bill. So there are, in the 2 years since the original legislation was tabled, there may be new opportunities to look at how to effectively address Islamophobia and all forms of racism, discrimination, and hate in the province.
Where's the bill right now, or is it dead?
The bill disappeared. When the 2022 election was called, everything is wiped from the order paper. So when the next government comes in, it's a clean slate.
So is your plan then to do this kind of consulting and then come back with a new bill? Is that...
Our plan is to consult and then share the findings of what we hear in our consultation, and to work with all parties to get legislative changes introduced. It should be nonpartisan. All parties previously had expressed support for some form of legislation, and we need to do this now because we know that there has been a rise in Islamophobia, and what the measures that have been brought forward since, which have been very minimal, have not worked to keep our communities safe in this province.
Can you remind us what are some of the key kind of points you want to see in the legislation?
Sure. So the original Our London Family Act was based on the recommendations that were brought forward by the Muslim community at the time. There's a big focus on public education, and when NCCM came to Queen's Park on Monday, we heard from many of the people that we met with that students in our schools are experiencing Islamophobia on a daily basis. And so one of the recommendations, the legislative measures that was included in our London Family Act, was to require school boards to develop anti-hate, anti-racism plans that would include Islamophobia. Some school boards, like Thames Valley District School Board in London, have done that. But there are many school boards in the province that don't have that kind of those kinds of plans in place.
I'm wondering, you've mentioned there's, that we've kind of seen a rise in the hate that we're seeing and tensions and whatnot. I'm wondering why it took 2 years, for the NDP to kind of launch these consultations. When the last bill kind of died on the order paper, why not something sooner?
We have been working very closely with the Muslim community, both in London and at MCCM across the province, on how to move this legislation forward effectively. The call was for the Ontario legislature to introduce and pass legislation to address Islamophobia. We have been waiting to see that kind of legislation introduced by the government. It has not happened in the 2 years since our London Family Act was first tabled, and so we need to consult on what kind of legislation needs to be in place in this province to deal with the reality of Islamophobia and anti-Palestinian racism that so many Muslims are experiencing right now.
Have you guys had any discussions with the government? Are they open to you talking about this with you guys, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And after the 2022 election, I had regular interactions with Minister Ford, whose ministry is responsible for this bill, to commit the NDP's support for any kind of legislation or not any kind, but for legislation that the government was going to move forward based on our London Family Act. And, we had said that we are willing to work with the government to make sure that this happens, that effective measures are put into place through legislation to address Islamophobia. But as we have all said, it's been 2 years. We have been waiting, and we haven't seen the kind of legislation that we need to deal with this issue.
Do they say that they're working on something, or what's the reaction from the minister?
They reference an anti-racism strategy, which has not been funded, does not include anti-racism training, which was another critical piece of our London Family Act, because you can have an anti-racism plan, but unless you have training to implement it, it won't be effective.
We're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.